Indeed. And when you talk about, technology, there is also a huge space for innovation, and specifically innovation that is geared towards solving the challenges that the world goes through right now. The biggest one of them being the issue of climate change. And right now I'm joined by Vincent Ogaya, lead research and policy at the Kenya Climate Innovation Center. And we want to discuss this issue of rethinking climate financing. For starters, your reaction, Vincent, to COP29. I know it brought quite a lot of issues in regards to funding support from developed world. Africa and the developing world actually felt shortchanged in that regard. What is your take on that?
Yeah, exactly, because when it comes to climate financing, the developed world has a historical responsibility to be able to support the developing world overcome some of the challenges that are brought by climate change. So, for example, you look at our space in Kenya, we are at both extremes, the most visible ones being that when it rains, it pours. We have floods, and then at this extreme end again, we have drought. So those are the most visible impact that we have as a country. And so in order for us to be able to adapt and to also support mitigation efforts, we need financing. Mm-hmm. But then, because the developed world historically contributed to a large chunk because of industrialization and emissions and all that, more than the developing world. And so at COP29, it was agreed that the developed world would contribute about 300 billion, yet the funding needs for the developing world is actually in excess of $1 trillion. So that is why it brought much uproar. Mm-hmm. The African group of negotiators had to, issue a statement and say that is not what they expected. And also, the group of small island countries and elsewhere in the world where developing countries are, they saw that as a very paltry amount. Mm-hmm. that would not enable them to particularly meet their adaptation needs.
Definitely. And looking at our local ecosystem, mm-hmm. in terms of innovation, mm-hmm. The talk right now is about sustainability, mm-hmm. and creating projects that are good, mm-hmm. for the environment with this problem of climate change. Mm-hmm. Where do we stand right now in terms of channeling funds, mm-hmm. towards businesses, startups, mm-hmm. Ventures that are geared towards solving the climate crisis?
Yes, when you look at the majority of jobs, they are created by the small and medium enterprises. Those are at the lower base. And it happens so elsewhere in the world. Also, the solutions that we have on mitigation, adaptation, or anything to do with climate response, the solutions come from the startups and from the small businesses in every sector that they are in, be it agriculture, water, energy, name it. The challenge has been that when it comes to financing, not so much has been going towards that direction. Mm-hmm. We have climate finance flows still going to very big projects, yet where the solutions lie, there's still a big gap. And the startups, the small and medium enterprises have the opportunity to actually innovate in a local way. Mm-hmm. I would say, for example, that where you have access to water being a challenge, you find, for example, water ATMs that are made around here and all that. But then the funding to be able for these startups and small and medium enterprises to be able to scale remains a challenge. Reason being that they are still looked at as high risk, the ventures themselves as high risk. Mm-hmm. Again, the sector in which they operate, which are climate sensitive, are also still looked at as high risk. Mm-hmm. And so not much has been going towards that direction. Mm-hmm. And that is why now you see enterprise support organizations like us, the Kenya Climate Innovation Center, and others like VILCAP, for example, that currently we are partnering with on a project on supporting small businesses, are able to then deploy the financing that is needed by these small ventures to be able to scale.
All right. Yeah. So these support organizations sort of are bridging this finance gap that we're seeing in terms of making these ventures less risky, because that's the term that financiers use. That's risky, that is less risky. What do we need to do so that we can see more and even mainstream financing saying, actually, in climate ventures, I'll get my return on investment and it will be considered less risky?
Yeah, so many things to be done. I would probably just mention a few. One being, for example, the credit guarantees. We had some law about 2-3 years back. The government was trying to amend the Public Finance Management Act so that they are able to de-risk some of the enterprises, of which, if that were to happen, then it means that the high-risk ventures then would be able to benefit from that. Also, we need to have more financial flows going towards that direction. The financial institutions need to also be able to understand and to set aside funding, of which some of them are doing currently. You go to commercial banks, they are going towards that direction, only that it is not enough. So that funding is set aside towards supporting SMEs, particularly in the climate space. But also the government, I would say, needs to put in more money. We have seen efforts like the financing locally led climate action project that is partly funded by the World Bank and also by the government. And more so, the county governments have a bigger role to play there, because the solutions that are being funded go to the very local levels as far as the world level. So those kind of initiatives are what are needed to be able, and most importantly, to be able to identify what really are these enterprises addressing, so that then the finances are deployed towards the right set of solutions that need to go out to the market and to support in addressing climate change.
Definitely. Yeah. Very targeted financing, as you rightly put it. Thank you very much, Vincent, for your time. Vincent Ogai is lead research and policy at the Kenya Climate Innovation Center, and he says that enterprise support organizations do play a huge role in bridging this finance gap, but the current, actually, our local financial machinery needs to align to. Some are doing that, but we need to scale up to see more finances channeled towards climate-related ventures and startups. That's where we put a full stop to Business Today. Thank you very much. I'm Nokip Kimboi. Up next we have BOK10. Stay tuned.